Okay, so here's the form that we created last time, and all the fields in that we did, no problems at all. And if you remember, we talked about data connections and having different data connections to different data sources, in this case to submit data to the SharePoint list and actually bring data in from SharePoint. Well, one of the options you have within InfoPath is to actually submit data as an email message. So if you're doing a very, very simple form which is only going to get emailed to somebody once, then you can use this. You can actually type in an email address into this form field, or you can use the form fields that were actually created earlier. So for instance, we could set the reporting staff field and that would bring it in automatically. The subject, we can do something, so we could basically say, well, it's a help desk report, and then we can add a function in there, so we can add a category in there and it will pull that out automatically, apart from not putting in the thing. But you see what we can do with that. Subjects, again, we can pull functions in there, so we can pull anything in there we like. We can then use InfoPath. We can do it two ways. We can send the form as an attachment. However, you need to be able to open that attachment. So obviously you'll need something like InfoPath or InfoPath Filler to be able to view it. Or you can actually send it as an active view of the form. Now what that does is actually puts the form into the body of the email. So it just sits there. The user can actually read that from their email. They don't need anything, they don't need InfoPath or anything to actually open it and view it. And it's basically that is then added in as a data connection, and then from the file tab you've got the submit options, and you can change it to submit to email. Now, as you can see, the one problem with this method is that you can either submit it to the list or you can submit it to the email, where in actual fact in the real world what you want is both. Now, to do that, you would actually have to start using rules. So you'd have to put rules in to submit. So we then start to create rules. So when the form is submitted, submit using the data connection. In this case, it's the main one, which puts it back into the list. And then you'd add another rule saying submit data. And in this case, submit it to the email. So that when that form is submitted, it will run the rule, and this rule will basically submit the data to the data connection of the SharePoint list, and then submit it to email and send that email out to whoever you've decided to put in that actual data connection. Now, while that's a very, very simple way of doing it, it's not ideal. You don't really get any interaction. If that form is changed for any reason, it won't resend the email. It will literally just do it the once. So basically, we're not going to use that. We're not going to. I thought I'd show you that as a way of as a sort of starter for 10 into actually SharePoint Designer. So we're just going to close InfoPath and not save anything because we don't want to change actual submission. We'll just make sure it still actually works. We'll go for a problem with the keyboard. Some missing keys, which if any of you actually work in schools, you'll know that that's a fairly regular occurrence. And there we go, still submits properly into the actual SharePoint list. So let's minimize that, and we're going to open up SharePoint Designer. Now, some of you may already be familiar with SharePoint Designer. You may have used it for branding. You may have even used it for doing some workflows. It's mainly used, I would say, for branding by a lot of people, for branding SharePoint, master pages, that sort of thing. So we're going to open up our main site. You remember the login in is peculiar just to my setup because they're running on virtual machines. And we're going to go to workflows here, and as you can see, there's nothing there. The first step is to basically create a brand new workflow that connects to a list. So we've got this button here that says list workflow. Select that, ICT help desk, give it a name, so new help desk item, and click OK. And there we have our workflow, where we can actually now start adding some steps in. So what we're going to do in the first instance is basically just pick out the member of staff who is submitting the help desk form and send them an email that says you've submitted this help desk form with these details. So we have some conditions and actions. I won't go over conditions just yet. We'll leave that for a bit to show you the basics first. Actions here are basically saying make the workflow do something. And what we want at the moment is send an email. Then we click on these users, and again we can put an email address in there if we want. But if we click on the little book, we have the choice here. Again, you can type an email address in. You can pick from members of your organization or members of the SharePoint. So if you've got users on the SharePoint itself, you can use those. But what we're going to do is a workflow lookup for a user. And if we click add, we get this dialog box that is saying, well, from which field of the form do you want to choose from? You leave it selected as current item, which means it will look at the list item that's just been saved. And we're going to try and find the one that is actually reporting staff, because that's the person at the top who actually reports the fault. Click OK and OK again. The subject, you've got two choices here. You can either put in just a straight function and the same dialog box, so we could put in the category. But what we're going to do this time is actually click on the little one with the dots on, and we're going to put help desk item and then add or change a lookup. And at this point we're now going to select the category, click OK and OK again, and that's in there. We're now going to put in here basically what the details are. So we're going to put in here let's to put a little bit of text. So you created a ICT help desk item on, and we're going to put in a add or change lookup, and this one we're going to put the created. With following details, and we're going to put in the category alt and the IT staff assigned. And again, you're probably getting the idea here. We add or change lookup. We're looking for the category this time, and then we're going to look for the fault. And then we are going to look for the member of IT staff that was assigned to the job. And as you can probably see up here, we can do anything we like. So we can actually format it so we can have the headings as bold. So make those heading bold. If you want to, you can change the color, etc., etc. But that will do for now. So click OK. You then need to look at the workflow settings. Workflow settings basically say when this workflow will run. So there are three settings. The first one is allowing it to run manually, which you can leave alone if you want. Then you basically start it automatically when an item is created or when an item is changed. They're both fairly obvious. We want this to be when an item is created, because we want this workflow to kick in as soon as the list item has actually been saved. So we'll save it and we will publish it to SharePoint. So far so good. Let's hope this next bit works. Let's open up our site. Let's just do a refresh just for the fun of it. We're going to add a new item. We are going to select the category of email. and we're going to say inappropriate email content. Just take note that it actually says down there the IT staff M. Akelia, and we're going to submit, and it's being submitted by the user Bossy. So what we're going to do now is, as you can see at the top side here, the new help desk item is in progress. We just do a refresh, see when it's finished, then it's completed. Now going to log on to OWA on our Exchange box as the user Bossy, who, if the demo gods are smiling on me, will have an email in there with those details that we've just created. And there we go. And there you can see all my tests that I did this earlier on. So just to make sure, we'll have a look at the time there, 18:17, which is obviously UK time. And there's the details. So you can see that the bit we created, you created a help desk item on, and we put in the lookup for created, and it's put the date and time in there. And then the category, the fault, and the IT staff assigned. So it's built that email up from the bits that we put into the workflow. So we haven't had to think, we haven't had to make that up ourselves. It's actually done it for us. So I've done that, and I thought, well, hang on, the fault is wrong. It wasn't actually inappropriate, but I can't do anything about it. So maybe I actually want a link on there to be able to open that form up. So what we're going to do is go back into SharePoint Designer, back to edit the workflow. And if we click on this bit here where it said these users, it now says the reporting staff, and that's the actual item list, the workflow that we've done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a hyperlink to the actual form. So we're going to click on the button here, the hyperlink button. Text to display, we're going to put open for edit form. And then we're going to click on here to build the address. So the address in this case is http sp2010 lists and ICT help desk. Now there are three different ways of opening a form, which I think I mentioned last time. There is newform.aspx, editform.aspx, and viewform.aspx. And then again, do exactly what it says on the tin. Edit form, you can open it in edit mode. View, you open it in view mode. And new is open in a new form. So we want to edit this form. So we're going to go edit form.aspx. We now need to tell the link which form we're going to open, so which list item. So we're going to put a question mark in, and then we're going to put equals, and then we're going to add in a change or lookup, and what we want is the ID of the actual form, and it's the current ID. So we'll click OK, and OK again, and as you can see, we now have a nice hyperlink bit of text at the bottom. So we'll click OK, and we will save it and publish it. We will go back to our help desk, and we'll just do a new item. And this time we'll go website, blocked website, and submit, and OK. Okay, so you can see there, it's at the bottom, ID 22, help desk in progress. Let's do a refresh, see when it's finished. Okay, it's finished. I should now have another email, which I have. And now you can see I've got this link at the bottom. So if I click this link, again, with any luck, what it should do is open it up, open that form up in edit mode. Why has it done that? So I can then go in and then say, well, actually, no, it was website and it was changed website. Okay, so you can see you can build that link. You can then also, you can use the new form, view form, whichever ones you want to actually use. But what I also want to do is, I'm a member of the IT team. How do I actually know that anybody's added anything to the list? Now, I could go the old-fashioned way and put an alert in, so I could, I could alert me every time something's added. It's not really an ideal way of doing it. So what I'm going to do is go back to the SharePoint Designer, and I actually want to CC this. So what I'm going to do is put in a workflow lookup for the user, click Add, and in this case I want the IT staff member that's been assigned to the job. Click OK, OK, and OK again. Save that, publish it. Let's go back here and do a new item. Getting a bit boring with mouse, keyboard and everything else. So this one is going to go to the IT staff, P. Harding. So I'll click Submit and OK. I'll just wait for the workflow to actually finish. There it is. So there's the one in the person who submitted it. You can see that on there it's been CC'd to Pauline Harding. So we're just going to sign out of this and sign back in as Pauline Harding. And with any luck, as you can see, 1823. There's the she's now got an email which basically she can go in and actually find the form if she wants to, and put any details in there and change it. Okay, so that's a very, very simple one-line workflow. What we now need to look at is basically if a work item has changed, I'm actually putting something there, a condition in. So, for instance, on the help desk items, you can see that there's a status. So we have a status of basically open, ongoing, or closed. So what we want to do is actually, well, if a member of staff closes, member of the IT staff closes a help desk, then we need to let the user know. Okay, that's the whole point of having it within SharePoint and using workflows, is to actually get that communication between the user and the IT staff without obviously having face-to-face. So let's just get rid of all these items first. And what we'll do as well is we'll clean out that and close it down. Okay, so back to work for SharePoint Designer. We've got that workflow there. What we're going to do is leave the CC in, close that, and what we're going to do now is a new list workflow, the ICT help desk, and we're going to put changed help desk item and click OK. And again, starts in exactly the same way. This time we're going to put a condition in. So we've basically got certain conditions. You've got the any value equals any value, current item, created by people, modified by specific people. So you can do workflows that are based on an item within the form, or you can put something in that says if this item is created by a specific person, do this. And it really is good old-fashioned workflows and flow diagrams. So what we want is if any value equals value, we click on the value and click on the little function button, and we say in the current item, if status is equal to, and you see it picks out the three choices, closed, and then we click underneath and we're going to send an email to the person who created the form. So the workflow lookup, click add, we want the reporting staff, click OK and OK again. We're going to build the subject line. In this case, we're going to put help desk item closed, add in the category and OK. And then in here, we're going to put your help desk item created on, add the change, put in the created field, has been closed with the following details. Following. Okay, so we're going to have category, alt, and this time resolution. So let's add those fields into there. So looking for category, and we're then looking for the fault, and we're then looking for resolution, and we'll just make those bold as well. Okay, so that's that. And then what we can do as well is just to clean it up, is basically put an action in here of stop the workflow and log this message, and we can just build a message up, was basically saying help desk item resolved, add a change or lookup, and we could add the resolution in there as well. Not going to, because it would actually be a bit big, so we're just going to do that. Okay, so we then need to go and look at the workflow settings. This time we want it to start when an item is changed. So we tick that, we'll save it, and we will publish. Okay, go to the help desk. Let's just do a quick refresh. Click add new item. So the user bossy, we're going to have email, and we're going to put inappropriate content, which goes to Emma Keelia, and we're going to click submit, and the form has gone. Your help desk items completed. So if we log back into Exchange, not as her though, as our bossy user, and I'm sure we've all got those, bossy and technology. So there's the new item done at 18:30, blah blah blah, inappropriate email content, edit the form if I want to, in this case I don't want to. So as the IT member of staff, we won't look at their email because it means we're logging out and back in again. But I've gone to it, I've looked at it, I've figured out what the issue is, so I'm going to open it up and edit it, and I'm going to say that the status is now closed and the resolution was sanctioned student for sending email, and submit, and the form is submitted. So there we go. You can see now the changed, which I obviously can't spell, is in progress. Let's do a refresh. See if when it's finished, it's completed. There's the resolution, and with any luck, we now have an email in boss's email, basically saying your help desk item created on such and such has been closed. Email inappropriate and email content, and the resolution is sanctioned student for sending an email. So as you can see, we now have a level of communication between the IT staff and the users. When we first implemented this in my organisation, sort of about 2 years ago, it to a certain extent revolutionised the way the IT team works, because you are giving the users of extremely happy when they actually get something back. Even if we'd have changed that to ongoing and give them some feedback saying, yeah, we're investigating, etc., etc. If you give those users that feedback, it just makes your life so much easier as an IT manager. Okay, so we've got that conversation going off and the emails going around. Now, you could add into this workflow anything else you'd like. So if we go back, if we just close down that one. So we've got the new and the changed one. The new help desk item, if we go back into edit that, at the moment it's just emailing the reporting staff and the member of the IT staff it's assigned to. It may be that you actually want to do another email. So you could say we'll add in another email to, in this case, let's go for a Richards help desk item, and that could be the line manager. So the line manager gets a help desk item when everything's saved, changed. So when everybody adds a new help desk item, they add another one in, and the line manager gets a report every time there's a new help desk item. I won't actually put that one in, just shows you what you can do. Okay, so that's the basic simple two workflows. What I wanted to do then was show you some other options you have. You also have in some conditions and some more actions. So we can also different list actions. So if you have a help desk item that has everything in it, and you don't, maybe you want to keep separate lists. So you want to keep a separate list for email items, a separate one for website items. You can use these ones to actually copy list items over, and you can actually copy a list item from one list within SharePoint to another, and then delete the item in the original one. It's just a way of managing lists. I'm not recommending it as a way you do it. It's entirely up to you. It's just that those items are there. You can do lookup manager users. You can do task items. So you can collect data from a user, start approval processes. There are some things in there that's missing, and what I'm going to do is actually put in another step here. It's called an impersonation step. Now, I'll put it in, and then we'll go to actions, and you'll actually probably see that there are some extra options in the list items section, and that's actually remove list item permissions, replace list item permissions. It may be that you want to have different permissions on different list items. You may have a need for it. If you talk to some people and talk to some MVPs, it's not recommended, depending on the size of your list, because it creates an issue that when the list item is requested, it has to look who has permission for it, and then that puts a bit more load onto the server. So if you've got a very large list and each list item has permissions, then basically it may slow the system down. But how an impersonation step works is you get all these extra utilities because you are running that step as the form administrator. So one word of caution if you use an impersonation step is don't put in anything there that could completely screw up your list, because it's running as a form administrator, it will just do it. It won't fail because of permission rights or anything like that. It will literally just do what you've told it to do, and if you've got it wrong, it will screw the whole lot up. I personally actually do use the impersonation step for one of our list items, what time is it? It's 22. I will quickly, very, very quickly, log in to, and hopefully this won't slow down too much. Okay, what we're doing now is just logging into basically one of my servers at work, so I can show you what we do. The issue is, we're okay when I'm showing you on here, but I can't do a great deal. So we've got SharePoint Designer on this server. And we will open up our Learning Gateway. So if I show you our Learning Gateway, which we've nicely put a Merry Christmas in, and what I'm going to do is just log in as a different user. I'm actually going to log in as a student, which is my daughter, so it's perfectly fine. And as you can see down here, we have basically a homework. All our homework set for our students is set online, so the teacher sets homework online. We have groups in our Active Directory that have in them students within a teaching group and the parents of those students as well. And their homework appears to them on the front page, so we don't use paper diaries or anything for homework. They literally log in from home, look at their homework, and hopefully do it. But the way we actually make it so that homework appears to them is that we have set homework permissions workflow, which if we edit that, it's very, very straightforward. It has basically one impersonation step in it, which basically replaces the rights, the permissions on the current item list. So the current item in the list is basically, it says give staff contribute and read, and then basically give teaching groups just the read access. And what that does is it means that only those members of those teaching groups can see that piece of homework. There are probably other ways of doing it, and we are actually rebuilding it again. It's only been in since September, and we've had feedback from people of actually how they want it to change. What I'm also going to show you as well, if we close that and I'll open our staff site, is one of our more complicated workflows, just to show you how complicated it can get. We have basically a thing called VET, which is visits, events and trips, where we take children out on visits, events and trips, and it has to go through certain approvals. So this is the workflow for that. So at each level it basically looks at what the form is doing, so whether it's been declined or approved, and then if it has to go to certain people. Has finance been approved, has the cover been approved? So you can see you actually can start to get quite complicated. You can do else ifs as well, or if else. So basically, if in this point here it's saying if the current item, the finance approval is declined, then email the staff member and say I'm sorry but you can't go out. But if it's approved, then, or it's not applicable, then we add in an item which basically says the calendar, add it into the calendar equals no, then email the current member, add it into a calendar, and this is where I was on about the create list items. We have two lists. We have the vet list, which holds every piece of visit, event and trip that's ever been added, and then we have a vet calendar, which is still a list, but it has a default view of a calendar, and items are added into that with less detail, so that basically everybody in school can see when visits are actually going on. And I'll show you, if I log in now as a staff member, and one advantage of having every single member of your family working in the same school is that now I can actually log in as a staff member as my wife. So this is a staff member's view, and if we go to the staff section, you'll see this is the visits and events trips form for them to fill in with all the details, and the copy to list item, when it's all been approved, is basically this bit here, which then we have our vet calendar, so people can go onto the vet calendar and see what's actually going off. So, you know, what is this rugby trip that's going off, so everybody can actually see all those items. I don't know. Okay, let me log that off. Now, one of the things you may have noticed here as well is export to Visio. If you have access to or a copy of Visio Enterprise, I think it is, the top level one, you basically can create SharePoint workflows from within Visio and import them into SharePoint Designer. So the more complex your workflow, you can create it in Visio using standard workflow methods, and then actually import that into SharePoint Designer to add in the actual detail of to who an email is going to or anything like that. So I'm a bit conscious of time, so I don't want to show you too much or anything more on SharePoint Designer. That's basically some very basic workflows. What I will do now is, if you have any questions, then either use the Q&A at the top on the toolbar, or if you want to, you can, if you've got a microphone, you can open the microphone up and just ask the question if you don't mind everybody else hearing it. So over to you if you have any questions. I will try and answer them.